have a bunch of fresh jalapenos. So today the goal, I'm going to pickle up some Cowboy Candy, which is a sweet heat pickled jalapeno. It's not a jelly, it's more of like a sweet brine base, but it's not a brine, it's like a syrup. If you shop at Trader Joe's, you've probably seen, actually I have a jar of it in the fridge. I kept the jar so I could see what was in the ingredients because we really like that recipe. Thinking I could just put some fresh jalapenos into this brine. They're called hot and sweet jalapenos, and the ingredients in this jar is jalapenos, sugar, water, vinegar, salt, red pepper puree. My inspiration for the Cowboy Candy recipe is I'm gonna do two different kinds. Today I'm going to do the recipe I found on Becky over at the Acre Homestead. She's got a recipe that she loves, and then the other people that I go to a lot is that 1870s Homestead, and their recipes are pretty different. Becky's is very simple and it has less sugar. And the 1870s Homestead, they love it, but it has a ton of sugar, and the spices that are in it sound interesting. So I want to try it. I don't know. I'm gonna start with Becky's though, because I like the idea of the lower sugar content. Oh, they both mentioned that they chopped up or diced up their jalapenos because they prefer it that way as opposed to slicing it. When you buy it in the grocery store, it's just sliced, which I initially thought I was gonna do, but my trick is putting it in the food processor and pulsing it until you get that right chop. You have to be careful though when you're doing it that way, because you can puree it too far and make it mushy. So you have to be really kind of delicate with the pulsing, but that's what I'm gonna do. Here we go. I'm just gonna start taking the tops off the jalapenos. This is a reduced sugar recipe, but there's so much sugar that goes into candied jalapenos that all the seeds are gonna stay. So I don't know how hot it will be. It always depends on the intensity of the jalapeno, and from what I can see, or taste I should say, is that my jalapenos are pretty spicy this year, and for whatever reason it seems like I always end up growing a pretty hot jalapeno, so we'll see. But what I was getting at with the sugar is that seems to mellow out the intensity of the heat. We're going full send on the seeds. The idea here is it's a sweet heat recipe. This Cowboy Candy I think can be used the same way as my pepper jelly, where you put it over a block of cream cheese, or sometimes I'll put it over brie cheese or a goat cheese, any sort of cheesy, creamy type of cheese with crackers has always been a huge party hit where everybody loves it. Let's blitz this up, chop these, then I'll go get the water bath canner and get that going. I'm a little nervous to stick my face in there because it's spicy. I think that looks good. So then I'm just gonna dump it into this bowl over here, trying to not breathe in all the fumes of it. This can be irritating to some people's lungs, so you know if you're one of those people that's irritated by that capsaicin in the air. This is a pressure canner, a stovetop pressure canner. I have an electric one too, but this large stovetop pressure canner is dual purpose for me as a water bath canner. So you just don't crank the lid down and put the cap on it when you're water bath canning in it, but it's a lot deeper than my water bath canner, so sometimes I can stack it and get two batches inside of the pressure canner. So I prefer water bath canning on the stove with it. And I do have an electric water bath canner, but it takes a long time to heat up. And I find that on the stove, it heats up quicker when you're water bath canning. But with pressure cooking, I prefer it in the electric canner because it's just hands off. And I honestly still haven't figured out the right dial on which burner and how far up or down that I need to have it adjusted for the pressure canner. So I've got a variety of different canners for their purposes. Okay, so we need to add sugar and apple cider vinegar to the Dutch oven. There is salt in there.
I like those overalls. It's cute outfit.
You like it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Lud.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's not saying in this recipe, unless I'm overseeing it, which is a very strong possibility. Add sugar, apple cider vinegar to a Dutch oven and cook on medium heat until it comes to a boil. Once boiling, add the jalapenos and have the mixture come back to a boil and boil for 5 more minutes. Then we're gonna ladle all of that into the jars. Okay, so I am assuming we put all the salt. I'm gonna look it up here real quick. Okay, so yes, you do add the salt to the brine. And I need to go get more more sugar out of the pantry. So I'm gonna go do that real quick. I just filled up my sugar jar and I went and grabbed the apple cider vinegar. So we need to make up the brine, bring it to a boil, and then we're gonna take our jalapenos and we put it in the pot, then bring it back up to a boil for 5 minutes. And then we're gonna ladle all of that into jars, leaving a 1/4 inch headspace. And then wipe down the rims, put the lids on rings back into the hot canner, which I've already started warming up. So that's at a boil. This should come up to a boil pretty quickly. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but yesterday I weighed out 3 pounds of jalapenos, and then obviously those were chopped up just a little while ago. And I leave everything covered because we have so many lovely summer flies. Not really right now because it's now dark outside, but just kind of have it. So I have towels everywhere covering stuff up. So we need 4 cups of apple cider vinegar. I get these large containers from Azure and I need to order some more. I also use that apple cider vinegar for my homemade fly spray for my horses, and we use it too. It works really good for flies and mosquitoes. Somehow I've gone through quite a bit of apple cider vinegar this year, and I think it's because of my fly spray that I've been making. But I've had 2 of these gallon-sized jugs of apple cider vinegar for 2 years, and I'm just now getting to the end of it. I don't always can a whole lot of stuff with it, so this is the first year that I feel like I've used a bunch. I think last year I must have just had a bunch of recipes I thought I was going to make with apple cider vinegar, but I didn't. And this year I'm using it up, so that's good. And then I need to get my 1 cup measure for the sugar. And Weenie, I'll turn this on. It's centered up there. And then we need, okay, oh, I did that the wrong way. Oh, I'm glad I just saw that. Okay. Man, I have been spacey all day long. Let's see. I'm gonna pour back. Turn that off. Pour back in here 2 cups. Need to put 2 cups of this back. It's, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm really glad that I caught that now. It's 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, 4 cups of sugar, which is a lot, and it's still less than other recipes, which is crazy. And I'll pour that back into the jug. No wonder I haven't been going through that cider as much, or the apple cider vinegar as I thought, because that was way more than what I needed. A couple of things I need to clarify here in this video due to my camera automatically cutting off footage throughout canning this Cowboy Candy. The recipe I'm following here is from Becky at the Acre Homestead from her recipe blog. I will list the recipe below I'm referencing. At the time of making this video, I looked over her recipe what felt like a million times and didn't see the amount of salt to add, but currently it is indeed correctly listed on the ingredients. On top of that, my footage cut out when measuring the sugar, so on the stovetop, I combined 2 cups apple cider vinegar, 4 cups of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt to make the sweet syrup mixture, which I have been referring to as the brine throughout this entire video. Oh, that's like that is like a syrup. Almost like caramelized tasting. Makes sense. All that sugar probably is kind of turning into a caramel. So we're going to bring it back to a boil, and then we're going to let it boil for 5 minutes. It starts to cook the peppers, which shrinks them and condenses them down, which I guess is good, because in the canning process, if you didn't do this step, it would do it in the canning process, and then you're going to be left with more brine in your jar than a thick amount of jalapenos. The jalapenos won't fill up the jar as much if you didn't do this step first. So we do this first, we cook them down, we reduce the jalapeno size. That way you have more of a true product when it comes out of the canner. Bring this back up to a boil, and then we're gonna get them jarred up. We got exactly 6 pints. And I'm thinking that I might have a little brine left over. And if I do, I'm going to jar it up. Unfortunately, I dealt with camera issues this entire video. The camera kept randomly cutting recording. So to summarize the tutorial ending of canning Cowboy Candy, I used a slotted spoon to first fill the jars with the jalapenos to about a 1/4 inch of headspace, which means I filled the jars with jalapenos and there was a 1/4 inch of jar space left to the brim of the jar. Then I topped the jalapenos off with the syrupy liquid, aka the brine I've been referencing to. After that, I poked a chopstick down and around the jalapenos to release any extra air bubbles that might be in the jars, and then I cleaned the rim of the jars with vinegar and a paper towel to remove any syrup off the rim of the jars. This is a very important step you do not want to skip, as the sugary syrup can keep the jars from sealing properly in the canning process. Once these steps were completed, I secured the lids and the rings to a fingertip tightness. Once all the jars were in the canner, I made sure the hot water covered the jars by a couple of inches, brought everything up to a rolling boil, and set the timer for 10 to 15 minutes. After the timer hit, I turned the heat off and let everything sit for 5 minutes. Remove the jars onto a clean towel and let everything cool overnight. So to wrap this up with a pretty little bow, once everything is cooled for 12-ish hours, remove the rings, check the lids for proper sealing, wash and dry your jars, and don't forget to date and label. Keep these on the shelves for a couple of weeks before cracking them open and devouring, so all the flavors can mix together and do their magic. Make sure to check back soon, as we have a lot more canning and preserving of the garden before fall. Thanks for stopping by the Tailor Made Homestead.